Alright, I'm back with another Destiny 2 video. Obviously, I am a day late with the TWAB here. Couldn't do a video yesterday. Noah was sick. He's fine. He just had a little eye infection and was home from daycare, but now he is good to go after some antibiotics. I'm not going to do a full read-through of the TWAB here, and I also discussed this with the DCP crew last night on the podcast, which some of you probably caught. But I did want to kind of go through the highlights here, given that this was a very dense TWAB and has a lot of things that are coming in Season 19, minus, of course, the actual plots of Season 19 or focus, even though there are some strange hints in here. I thought about waiting until noon reset to see if, like, today's the day they drop the trailer or whatever, but every time I do this, it never pans out, so screw it. And if they drop a trailer, I'll make 2 videos, I guess. Okay, so I'm not going to read this in full, but we'll just kind of go through the major points. This is the newest Destiny crossover. Whoops, I'm trying to blow this up here. Assassin's Creed Valhalla meets Destiny, which is not something I saw coming. Assassin's Creed has done crossovers with other games in the past, but the difference here is we are doing a lot of stuff in Destiny itself, including these armor sets, which I think are pretty cool. We have Altair era Warlock, Viking Valhalla era Titan, and then Odyssey era Spartan Hunter. I know people are saying he should have been Ezio, but I don't know, man. Spartan Hunter, that looks pretty cool. Apple of Eden Ghost Shell, which I don't really buy Ghost Shells anymore, but that's a pretty good one. What's interesting about this is confirmation that this is coming to Eververse means there should be like 7 armor sets coming this season. There's this. They have confirmed that the missing arc energy or arc element sets are coming. We have the base seasonal armor that you get as drops. And we have the seasonal ornaments that will be in the pass. We have Iron Banner armor coming back from Destiny 1. And then we have Dawning armor, which will be for the holiday. So that is just a metric ton of armor coming for a single season, even though half of it is like for sale in Eververse. Someone made the point that we have 7 sets of armor coming in a season, and none of those are for the comp ladder. So you can debate that if you want. All right. So this is just the general what's staying, what's coming, what's leaving in Trials, Iron Banner, and Nightfalls. The one interesting thing here is the return of Wendigo, the heavy grenade launcher, which is interesting. I know people are debating that's return, so that's something that certainly stood out. This is the new ritual weapon. Like, I haven't liked more or less any of the ritual weapons. They're just sort of subpar, uncraftable, multi-perk weapons that are like maybe okay, but like the last few have just not really been good or anything to write home about. This one at least looks extremely cool. Like, this seems like it, I don't know if it's an entirely new base, but I don't immediately recognize the base of this, and the base hockey coloring on this is really sick. I assume this is a pulse rifle. This looks like a pulse rifle to me. I guess it could be a scout, but it's giving pulse rifle vibes to me. It feels like it's gonna almost certainly have Headseeker because they're buffing Headseeker. I wonder if it's stasis because they're doing Hake buffs to stasis crystals. We have a Hake scout that's stasis that can that also can roll headstone, that can blow up its own crystals pretty well, and then we do have a stasis. I think we have 2 stasis pulses with headstone. The one is craftable. I can't remember the other one, but I think we have 2. Okay, so they're doing... I don't really care about the shotgun. Oh, wait, no, I skipped over. Okay, full auto's coming for everything. They've been talking about this for a long time, but full auto being a toggle option is fantastic, both from an accessibility standpoint and from the point where we do not have to use it as a mod anymore. So that frees us up for another mod slot. So this just benefits everybody, and it's a way accessibility is helpful all around. I don't care about shotgun spread. I don't. Like, I guess this is better than randomness. The differences that I'm interested in are aggressive shotguns actually increasing rate of fire, which a lot of them didn't. and then rapid fire reloads being very rapid fire across the board, not just on an empty mag, and then a slight PvE damage increase. I enjoy shotguns in PvE, obviously not for like GMs and things, which I don't really do anyway, but I think they're fun and they've gotten a good amount of buffs recently. They're nerfing Drang, that's not a shock. They're nerfing main ingredient, also said they were doing that before. Glaives are getting some buffs, some nerfs. It's a little weird. So glaives are going to be a little more accurate from projectiles because they've had some trouble with that with network connections. And well, the melee attacks can now benefit from exotic armor like Wormgod and Winter's Guile. Wormgod and Winter's Guile are getting nerfed. And glaive damage is getting nerfed against champions, mini-bosses, bosses, and vehicles. So I think they thought glaives were a little too strong. And then glaive base damage is being reduced. So glaives are pretty much getting nerfs overall, I'd say. I am curious about a lunge glaive build with Syntheseps. That sounds kind of awesome, with also increased damage while being surrounded. But we'll see how that goes. Hand cannons are doing some stuff to Rose to make it an adaptive hand cannon. They're changing blinding effects. This is the only change coming to Queenbreaker. They are buffing a lot of underused exotics, and Queenbreaker is one of the least used exotics, and yet it is not getting any actual buffs. I have very, very much been looking forward to the rolling up of the Dragonfly Rampage and Surrounded spec mods into the base perk, especially Dragonfly. Like that's they've buffed Dragonfly already like once or twice in the past, and it's actually pretty good now. And the fact that it can now be intrinsically, buffed like that and get additional mod on your weapon is good. Rampage being buffed is kind of hilarious considering Rampage has already been a top tier perk like forever. They did nerf it a little bit. I never liked Surrounded. Surrounded never triggers as much as I want it to. I don't know, it bothers me. Alright, Air Assault will never be good. They are trying to make Air Assault good. One major takeaway from the TWAB is that airborne effectiveness is never going away. They are committed to it for the long haul. They have too much invested in it. They keep doing tons of stuff with airborne effectiveness every patch, every season. They may nerf it eventually to the point where it feels okay, but like they're not just going to remove airborne effectiveness, which is what everyone keeps spamming, every time they say anything is remove AE. Not going to happen. They should not have done AE in the first place. It certainly feels like they are not going to fully remove it anytime remotely soon. That seems clear. Headseeker's getting buffed. Can't tell if this will be actually good and worthwhile until it is in the wild. There's a elaborate buff to Encore, which is supposed to simplify it, but reading it on paper, it seems a little complicated. Hopefully it's good. Seraph rounds. Here's a bit of news. Seraph rounds will be appearing on more weapons next season. As you may know, Seraph rounds only appear on Ikilos weapons back from the Escalation Protocol era. I don't think Seraph rounds were ever on the Season of the Worthy Warmind guns. I'm pretty sure they weren't. But Seraph rounds was indeed like one of the best magazine perks, if not the best, by a pretty big margin there. So they are nerfing it a little bit. Obviously, the implication here is that if Seraph rounds are going to be on more weapons, and those weapons are going to be Ikilos Rasputin-based weapons, that this is another hint that this is going to be a Rasputin-focused season. We already got some clues like the Seraph bots sweeping up the Elixni quarter, and then we have just long-running storylines of Rasputin being shoved in an engram way back in Beyond Light that we haven't circled back to. And we also know that Rasputin has information about Neomuna and the colony on Neptune, which was revealed in Witch Queen. So it sure seems like it's time for Rasputin season. Bungie really wants to keep this secret while offering weird little clues like this. I can't rant about the marketing anymore, or lack thereof, but do not understand what they're doing here. Tunnel Vision Post Kill Clip can be, so they can refresh, you can refresh it, but they are nerfing Kill Clip, which that's a pretty big nerf, actually. Okay, so redirection is getting changed a little bit, but the point here is, so all of the Deepstone Crypt perks are now going to be coming to other weapons that are not Deepstone Crypt weapons. And so some people are interpreting this to mean this is a confirmed Europa Clovis season. We are doing something again with Deepstone Crypt. It's going to be part of it. That's possible. And yet, Bungie did say that like all raid-specific perks will eventually start over time start dropping on more gear. So I don't know if it necessitates that like whatever guns these perks are on have to do thematically with the Deep Zone Crypt. Again, it's possible, and I can see some elaborate storyline that has to do with Anna and Rasputin and Clovis Bray and Europa and whatever. So maybe, you know, we have Seraph rounds and redirection and recombination on the new seasonal weapons or whatever, or the dungeon weapons. But in the future, you know, we're going to be getting more and more raid perks on, you know, quote, normal weapons. So it probably won't always be tied to the theme. Buffs. I really like the Hake buff here, so you can now just chow into Ward of Dawn and Well of Radiance. 60% damage increase with the artifact mod, which is something to be sure. Damage bonus against stasis crystals. Later on, they talk about how this is a stasis season with stasis artifact mods. And we will see if those are pretty wild or not. Gutshot Straight, have not used this too much, but it's getting a pretty significant buff on auto rifles. Compulsive Reloader now makes your ammo reload faster up to half ammo, so that's a good buff. I still don't know if I'll use it, but this is a perk that sounded like good at first and then was not really great in practice. High Impact Frame intrinsic perk can be hard to use because it switches off with. I don't know what the High Impact Frame intrinsic perk is, so someone can clue me in on that. Ambitious Assassin, more leeway between kills, well-rounded, duration increased. Recombination is getting. This is I had on the podcast. I'm like, I don't remember what this does. We had to look it up, and it's elemental kill stack damage. So now this is getting a buff, so it can be 100% bonus damage at max stacks, 50% PvP. So that is significant. This seems like this will be potentially a very, very good perk, especially given how elemental damage focused we are now with subclass 3.0 and elemental wells and everything. Zen Moment getting buffs, doesn't deactivate and miss, has a timer. Rerun violence will work on Divinity. Genesis working in PvP seems pretty good. That actually seems like that has the potential to be significant. I will be curious if that actually becomes a meta pick or not. One Quiet Moments will be reactivated faster after a final blow. Gun and Run, which is where you get increased movement speed after kills, which is the reworked Gambit intrinsic perk, is being reworked to work better in PvP or places with not that many enemies. Nerfs box breathing was too good on scout rifles, specifically things like Hung Jury. Too high of a time to kill there. Unstoppable Force is getting nerfed. Damage bonus from 30% to 20%. 1-2 Punch is getting nerfed pretty hard because they don't want people like 2-punching champions, I think. I did find it kind of funny that this is getting nerfed well. The Storm Grenade nerf is like barely anything, I feel. It's like a slight duration nerf for Titans. But this is getting hit a lot harder with this a lot of reduction in damage multipliers. This is just a bug fix. The 2XS, a whole list of enhanced perks that are getting, I would say, probably more logical, some of these don't even exist yet, I don't think, but some of these are getting more logical ones, like Enhanced Grave Robber gave you +5 reload, which defeats the purpose of Grave Robber, so like it's handling, which makes a lot more sense. So now we're going to have things like Enhanced Explosive Light. I don't think that exists now, but that says to me we're going to be able to craft a grenade launcher or rocket with that. Or wait, there's probably already a rocket we can craft that on, right? I think. I might be misremembering what this drops on. This jumped out at me. Enhanced Cold Steel, considering that is a perk that barely exists on anything. So weapon magazine capacity now adds +10 to be consistent with other ammo capacity perks. So that's interesting. Weapon magazine capacity. So either this might start dropping on non-sword weapons, or we're getting a craftable stasis sword. I don't know. So something is happening where we will be able to craft cold steel on something, and it might be expanding. So that's pretty interesting. There's a lot of stuff talking about swords here, implying to me, so chain reaction swords, flash counter swords, warple on swords. I was reminded that we already have 2 craftable swords in the Dare swords. I don't know. Sounds like we're getting a new craftable sword to me. Exotics. Okay, so this is like the main point of the TWAB here this week. They are reworking stuff, nerfing stuff, buffing stuff. I'm not like, I don't know. I didn't see anything about the reworks and buffs that like really screams like, oh man, that sounds crazy. Like nothing really stood out to me like that, save for maybe one thing, which I'll get to. But the nerfs are pretty significant because they hit like the top performing weapons kind of by far. Okay, so they're doing a thing where Borealis, Hardlight, and Dead Messenger are all getting various buffs based on their element that you have at any given time. This is kind of related to subclass 3.0 stuff a little bit, at least for Arc and Solar. Arc is more handling and range, Solar is more reload speed and airborne effectiveness. Void is more stability and aim assist. So like you can see some use cases like, okay, I'm going to run Void Borealis in Crucible to get better stability and aim assist on my sniper. Other than that, I don't know. Like that's fine. I just don't know if it's going to be like going to make any of these kind of a must pick now. They are still buffing Borealis even further. So if you match a shield, your next 5 shots will deal bonus damage even after you reload. So they're really trying to make Borealis a thing. I know a possible solution, like I propose giving this permanent anti-barrier sniper, which I don't know, maybe that's a little too strong even, but I don't know. We'll see if this does anything. They're doing a complete Jade Rabbit rework. Its exotic perk was lackluster. True. Okay, so now it quickly landing 3 crits returns around to the magazine and increases damage of your next body shot. Stacks up to 3 increased damage body shots. Resets if you reload. Still doesn't sound terribly exotic to me, but I mean, I guess it sounds like it has the potential to be strong. I don't know. This is one we're really going to have to like play with to see what it actually feels like. So these are the nerfs they're doing based on raid exotic weapon usage. They are hitting the clear outliers minus, so of the top 6, they're hitting 4 of them. No, not touching Trinity Ghoul, which is nice. Not touching Izanagi's, but Galahorn, Witherhoard, Divinity, Arbalest, all getting nerfed. And then they have PvP exotic special weapon usage. Witherhoard is very high up there. Forerunner is very high up there. And Jotun for all the scrubs, like myself. I don't actually use Jotun, but that is kind of the scrub weapon. Okay, so they're reducing the taken portal duration from 7.5 seconds to 4.5 seconds. Very, very significant. I said initially this was wrong, that it was reducing direct hit eating away at an enemy time, but apparently not. I think it's just when the pool's on the ground. Still, that's a very significant reduction, so you will have to spam twice as many pools almost to get the same result. Divinity, they talked about this a long time ago. Divinity's intrinsic 30% weaken was just absurd at baseline. I don't know if even cutting it to 15% is enough to take it all the way down, like an out of the boss DPS meta. My guess is no, considering the cage still exists, considering if you want the 30%, you will need to pair that with Tether or something, so you could picture, you know, your Hunter Divinity runner first shooting a Tether, then using Divinity, so you still get the same effect as before. Arbalest is just getting reduced body shot damage. I don't know. I don't think this is... Arbalest already got a bigger nerf before with damage to champions and stuff, but it's still very strong. Still feels like this is going to be incredibly strong, given its utility and damage. They're finally nerfing Galahorn, even though, I mean, it isn't the highest DPS rocket launcher. I don't think that's true. I think there are a couple of the crafted rocket launchers that are technically higher DPS. I don't know. It may depend on the context of the situation or the encounter, but that would be surprising if that was true. But they are nerfing it 25%, so that's pretty significant at baseline, even if Wolfpack rounds are unaffected. Guess we'll see how that goes. Forerunner, they were nerfing a little bit for PvP because it's too fast to kill. And here's how they decided on exotic buffs. Based on, this is popularity based on usage by people who own the weapon. So it's not total, but it is people who own the weapon. This is a pretty wild chart to me in a few ways. So, okay, so first of all, they're not buffing 3 of the bottom 4. They're buffing Merciless, but they're not buffing Queenbreaker, Worldline, or Two-Tailed Fox, which seems odd. They did talk about how future exotics will be interacting with They're subclass 3.0 verbs. So is Queenbreaker Arc? I think it's Arc because it blinds. Warline is Arc. So I wonder if those two might be getting buffs based on subclass words. Two-Tailed Fox also has Solar Burn and Void Suppression on it. So I wonder if that could also be getting further buffs based on those two subclasses. So that might be why these are left out here. Craziest thing I can see in here is Salvation's Grip being this high up. I can't believe Salvation's Grip is not in last place. I'm wondering if usage rate here is skewed a little bit by the fact that, like, you have to use it for some of the story moments in the Beyond Light expansion, but, like, I truly do not know who in what context is using this for any reason. You can see here that they've tried to buff things in the past that have not really done much or worked well. Wave Splitter, Lord of Wolves, Prometheus Lens, Ruinous Effigy, Heir Apparent. All of those got pretty recent buffs, but that has not increased their usage very much, apparently. And a lot of those are not even in here. So, okay, so the buffs are... This is one we've talked about before, where since Full Auto is becoming a setting in the exotics that have that as a perk, replacing it all with pretty logical perks. The best one here is certainly Surplus on Traveler's Chosen, which is super synergistic with how that weapon works. So I think that is pretty cool. They're doing something with Dead Man's Tail that I don't fully understand, but I think it's a buff, I'm pretty sure. Darcy, so they're making it before, so they buffed its damage once. They buffed the time it takes for personal assistant to activate, or they reduce the time it takes to activate, and now that will apply Jolt on shot. So I guess you can Jolt a boss and kill ads around the boss. I guess Jolt also does additional damage to the target itself, but so you have to take these together. So there's some bizarre thing they're trying to do here where they're buffing the two heavy ammo snipers. They're almost maxing their airborne effectiveness. And they say, well, we don't want special ammo snipers to be perfectly accurate from the air without significant investment. We don't have the same concerns about their heavy ammo counterparts. That's where this Whisper change comes in. And it's for this and Darcy. So, like, just, like, are people really going to choose the heavy sniper for PvP when just to, like, hit aerial trick shots with it better? I don't get it. I don't know what they're doing here or why this was an idea they had. I don't understand. It feels like it's something like for clips. Like I don't really, of the many confusing airborne effectiveness things, this is one of the most confusing. Whisper still needs actual additional buffs. They've long been saying that these should probably just move to the special ammo slot. They do not want to do that. Another weird buff in here is apparently Wishender has always been getting a buff to targets affected by Wither Horde, which I did not know. That is being buffed to 25%, so we could have some sort of weird shoot a champion with Wither Horde and then blast it with Wishender shots. Wishender is freaking awesome now. It's one of my favorite exotics, so I don't know, maybe that's a thing that can happen. Prospector's getting chain reaction. Fine. Prospector will not be relevant until some serious buffs to grenade launcher damage. Fourth Horseman's getting recoil reduced because it is ridiculous right now. Maybe this will make it used more in PvP. I don't know. Forerunner is getting a bunch of buffs to its grenade in PvE, something I forget it even does. I realize that's like its core exotic perk, kind of, but I really never use that grenade. It's a little clunky to do with like ammo to activate. I don't think it's a very good loop, so I've never really used it that much. Merciless, the least used exotic in all of Destiny 2, apparently. The buff here is, so previously it was like the increased charge time would go away pretty quick, or if you missed a shot, but now there's like a 5-second timer which keeps refreshing for every hit. I get how this is a buff. I just don't know if this is going to be enough where people are like, yeah, I'm using that for sure. I don't know. It feels like it needs more past that. This seems like one. I think this is solar. Maybe it could get some sort of solar 3.0 synergy. I don't know. Rat King, just expanding the radius for other rats. Fine. Legend of Acreus, the exotic I recently bought with spoils since I never got it originally. Reducing its movement penalties. Still have not really used it, so I didn't even know it had movement penalty, so I read this. Bastion, reducing the spread angle by 6%. This seems to be a PvP thing, but like Bastion is still in a bizarre spot where it isn't really an exotic. Like its exotic thing is that it has a 3-round bursts, and like the whole point was that it was the only fusion rifle in the top slot, but now stasis fusion rifles exist, so it is not unique there at all. I guess that has intrinsic anti-unstoppable, but like no one's using Bastion in PvE really, so it needs more than this. Quicksilver Storm, I really have not used. I know some people like this, but I just haven't used it very much yet. It's getting its grenades buffed to PvP. No idea how that will go. Cold Heart, this one's interesting. So I guess they did a bunch of buffs last season for Arc 3.0, but it wasn't good enough. So they're making it generate traces more often, and picking up a trace reduces the time it takes to get to max damage. In addition to that, at max damage, it gets max stability and reload speed. I could see some build that combines this with the Warlock spiky helmet that does things with ionic traces. That could be kind of fun, so I might try that out next season, but who knows if this will actually be good. Trace rifles are hard to actually commit to for an exotic slot in most circumstances. Alright, this is the only one where I'm like, okay, that sounds significant. Grand Overture, they're increasing the missile damage by 50%. This is the machine gun. I guess it's technically a machine gun, but it just functions really weirdly. Where you stack up missiles, and then you unload the missiles in a barrage. The missiles already did a really solid amount of damage. Surprisingly so, I thought. So increasing their damage by an additional 50%, that to me seems like a kind of big deal, although it requires a lot of setup beforehand, so I don't know if necessarily this will be like the boss DPS meta, but I could see it, having some uses in some content if this is like a really major buff. I don't know what they're doing to Xenophage. They're making it less AoE and slightly buffing its damage overall. And Cloud Strike Lightning Storm will now work on Divinity Cage. Okay, so there's only a few armor things here. They're nerfing Worm God and Winter's Guile because we were getting into like ridiculous stacking territory with melee increases, so they're already nerfing 1-2 punch, and this also I think has to do with the glaives, so the glaives don't get too nutty. Don't know how this will feel. It's obviously a very significant nerf, but there were so many, like some of the most problematic builds were stacking 1-2 punch and Worm Gods and like all this other crap in like just exponential ways, so I think they're trying to avoid that. Really, really interesting Gyrfalcon nerf buff. I don't know. It's been nerf overall, but this seems like it's going to make it a lot of fun. Rather than just getting you straight more damage when you come out of invisibility, which was especially problematic in PvP. So now you're getting volatile rounds on exiting invisibility, and then some stuff with, reserve overshield, temporary bonus to weapon damage. Sure. But this, in PvE, it's going to be very, very easy to have permanent volatile rounds all the time, considering how much you can go invisible. In PvP, I believe volatile rounds still give you like wall hacks to a certain extent, so that seems significant there. I don't know. This seems like a pretty interesting change. This makes me want to immediately run like funnel web on a Gyrfalcon Hunter as soon as next season launches, because this sounds very interesting. Things players can look forward to in the future. We don't know if this is all planned for Lightfall, or some of it might hit earlier. The Lightfall DPS meta, so this might not happen until then. Heavy weapon damage rebalancing. This seems like they're probably going to nerf linear fusion rifles and probably buff grenade launchers. It's not like a big mystery what the top DPS meta is and what the worst DPS meta is. A large rebalance of airborne effectiveness. So they're going all the way to making primary ammo weapons significantly more accurate while airborne without any investment. Icarus level accuracy before season 17. So maybe this will be the thing that gets people to not complain about AE anymore, if it just ends up being even better than it was previously. But then why did we do any of this in the first place? Don't know. Tweaks to shotgun reticles, don't know what that is. Alright, so a pass at adding subclass 3.0 verbs to several exotics, currently 7. So I'm going to assume this won't hit till Lightfall, probably. You can, think of the exotics that are most closely tied to their element. I'm wondering, if that will... I'm wondering if they're going to do things like change Risk Runner and Trinity Ghoul like change the chain lightning to jolt, like to make it literally jolt instead of what it currently is, the chaining. That might be a nerf, possibly. I don't know. Things like Polaris Lance, Sunshot, those seem like prime candidates for solar buffs. Void weapons, I don't know, Graviton Lance, maybe. Volatile rounds, I don't know. So you can think of some at least that come to mind there, and I think everyone was hoping that more exotics would work with subclass Forbes, but I get how that's probably a tricky balancing act. They have a weird invisibility solution for PvP for hunters where they are reducing the range of radar if you are invisible, even though most people were asking for invisible hunters to appear on radar more often. And that is not what's happening, nor are they changing anything with how people look while invisible, which has been something of an issue, so this seems like an odd change to me. They confirmed that the seasonal artifact mods will focus on stasis, which is a rare prediction. I got right. It seemed pretty logical after the elemental focus of the past few seasons, and we knew there was not a new elemental thing happening this season. They gave us the anti-champion mods, not my favorites for the most part, but we'll see. Unstoppable grenade launcher, Lucent finisher. So this, again, here's another story hint that we will be dealing with the Lucent Hive in some capacity, and then a recent tweet about Zivu Arath implies we're probably fighting the Hive to some extent with Rasputin. I don't know. This is all the clues that we have for the season. And then we've got some other stuff, Breach and Clear with Void 3.0, Passive Guard for Glaives, and then some other mods for chest and leg slots, which I think are underused because class slots and helmets are overused, and arms. Bonuses to resilience and mobility. I can't believe we escaped a resilience nerf, honestly. I am amazed. And we escaped a mobility buff, which mobility is still decidedly useless. So that is not changing. All right. Monochromatic Maestro rewards you for using weapons and subclasses that match your damage types. That is essentially the Elemental Well meta as it is, so that will probably buff that even further. A mod aimed at solo players, which should be useful in tackling Legend Lost sectors to get the right roll on that exotic you're looking for. I can't tell if this means like if it's like a stat-based thing where it's like if you're solo, your exotic drops will have plus 20 in a stat or something, or if they just mean it gives you some bonus while playing solo to your power, which will make running these lost sectors. That's probably it, but the wording here is a little weird. Okay, so here are the three options for Arbalest. Just like it was very obvious that Arbalest was going to win the poll they did last time, to me it is very obvious that the Synthwave one is going to win now. These are all really good designs. I would say my only critique is that unlike some of the other ornaments, I guess for Arbalest, but for a lot of things, like it's not really changing the geometry of the gun very much. Like it's like a very, very elaborate skin for the gun, but like fundamentally it's not changing like the structure. But I don't know. I get why they did that. I like the Black Armory one. Some people are thinking this is a hint that Black Armory weapons are coming back. I'm not going to read that much into it, maybe, but I don't know. I think this one's going to win. And I think that is it from the major updates here. And this is our last TWAB. They talk about next week's TWAB already. More creative ways to get your stealth on with the Ubisoft announcement. Okay, maybe there's some sort of like event also happening with that. The Dawning is almost here, given the seasonal timing, given that we're launching in December, so that's probably in like 2 weeks. I don't know. That's coming up very soon, even though we just finished the Halloween one. But that's what always happens. And yeah, we have no information about the season other than these very tiny, tiny hints. And I guess I can check Twitter to see if anything has been updated as I'm recording this, or if anything gets announced at Reset today, but I am not banking on that. So anyway, those are my thoughts on that rather lengthy TWAB without reading it in full. I almost like doing this more, where I kind of have had some time to process the changes rather than reading it straight live, so I might consider doing that in the future. If you made it all the way in here, let me know what format you like better. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.